Hey guys, it's Silver, and I'm back with Railroads Online. It's been a year, I know. I last kind of left you off with the Spline update announcement, and yeah, it's been a long time. Things have changed. A lot of things have changed. Gameplay systems have changed. I'm on a different railroad even. I'm living somewhere different. Like, welcome to Season 2. But let's go ahead and just jump right in. And instead of jumping right into the new stuff, which we'll get to in time, we're going to start with kind of re-rolling the way back. Look at this kind of like a tutorial. Sort of. We're going to speed it up. So, when you start out the game, you start with a lovely little locomotive named Betsy. She's short, she's round, she's a bit stubby, she's powerful-ish, and she's number 1 in her heart. She squeals a little bit. See? And she goes real fast. She even has a little area in the back here for her pin and knuckle. Well, that's not right. It's not a knuckle. It's like a link. Anyway, you start it with her and one other car. Yes, there's other cars here. Ignore this for now. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to hook up to that one other car. This is the type of stuff you would normally start with. Ta-da! Now we're linked up. How'd I do that, you may ask? Well, A, I backed up into it. But B, you left-click and then right-click to add in your pin and link. All you have to do is then push into the next car that has another unpinned section, pin it in after the cars have been well connected together, and bada bing bada boom, you now have a train. We're going to do that twice more with these two cars, and then we're going to be heading out. Now when you start up the game, this is not at all what it's going to look like. In fact, what you're going to see is a lovely view of a forest. What I've done is very quickly, I took the ends of the track, which the starting area track ends about here, and I went ahead and made my own little yard area. I kind of figured out that, well, you got to take your trains to some interesting locations, which is what we're going to do. You're going to take this extra 2 flat cars and the caboose up to the logging mill, which is the first, or not the logging mill, the logging camp, which is the first place you actually need to go. Yep. So after you get your little car, after you build your track, you're going to take your train all the way up to the logging camp. I'm going to quickly back up and connect these other 2 cars, and then we'll go ahead and get on that. And as you can see here, as we hook up the last car, just to reiterate, as long as one side has a pin and link in it, you can just click the other side. Now they're connected together. Though, if you do want to run anything to kind of get a train going, you do need to make sure one thing, that the brakes are turned all the way off. As soon as we're sure all the brakes are off, which I believe they all are, there we go. Now you can take your train wherever it needs to go. If you built your track, that's going to be the easiest thing to do. If not, well, your next goal should actually be building your track. I'm actually pretty much mid-game right now, which is why I have things like cabooses and all these flat cars and a large railroad. I've not connected up everything, which is what the series is going to be about. But I do have enough connected up now that we're going to kind of speed run through this. While we're going to the next location, I'll kind of catch you up on what's been missed. Alright, let's get out of here. So what's all changed? Well, in the most recent update, actually, that smoke and chuff sounds is one of the big things that changed. They've tried to make the chuffs more synchronized, but the smoke has ended up being a bit, weird. Black smoke isn't really a thing wood locomotives are known for, but, you know. Actually, you don't. Since the last time we played, they've added in a bunch of new additions other than that. Like, say, this new larger turntable. It now can fit some of the larger locomotives, which is another big thing that's been added. Multiple new locomotives have been added in. A new version of the Cookie, a Glenbrook, and a few others. Along with that, after the update for the track came in, they also made it so that switches now change when you go through them, so I don't have to worry about the switches as much when I'm coming upon them. We're not going to just derail now. Speed limits have been getting tweaked constantly since the last update, and in fact, now we have a few locomotives that can go extremely fast, and your train cars just cannot handle that. Other than that, they've also made it easier to kind of get around by adding telegraph buildings. You've already seen one in the background back there, but when you put them down, they actually become these little T's on the map. I had a buddy help me out with this map. This is actually his railroad, the Foghorn Rails, and he's graciously said that I can use it to film as well as can just plan it when I need to now. Which, besides the fact that you can now actively see these telegraph locations on the map, you can also see there's a lovely arrow right there. That arrow? That's us! So now you can know where you are, or your friends. Your friends will also show up on the map. That's kind of nice. Would have been great if that was there from the start. And in fact, the next thing that I'd really like to see is them to add tracks on here. Or trains. If I can't see the tracks, I'll take the trains. Anyway, they're still going through different seasons throughout the year, so depending on whenever you play is whatever type of season you'll see. So right now it is actually, I believe this is what they call a spring season. It keeps changing what the trees are and everything, so other than that, the game has also seen some small changes in the way of rolling stock getting added. Nothing like new train cars yet, well, other than the snowplow, which was added during the snowy season. I don't know if it does anything now, that'd be kind of weird, but it is still in the game, so if you wanted to buy one now in the other seasons, you absolutely can. The new bridges are fully implemented, as is the spline update. It is fully in here now, and the old tracks are no longer able to be made. You have to use kind of a old way to make tracks with that now. So, essentially, goodbye old splines, hello new. The new ones are kind of a mix of the old as well as the ones we started playing around with. They work pretty well. It's much easier to kind of build with the buttons now, but I can definitely see where there are some issues. So, some of the future updates that they've discussed coming up after this is going to be coal. Coal-fueled locomotives, as well as newer versions of knuckle couplers will start being seen and added into the game, as well as some new rolling stock to go along with that. So that's going to be really interesting to see when that finally comes out and kind of change some of the game dynamics up, because when you start hauling coal to fuel your locomotives, kind of like now you have to haul logs to fuel your wooden locomotives. As you can see, we're now backing up into the logging camp. The track doesn't make a full loop here on his railroad, so we have this nice little like half loop where one track goes around and comes back around into the cordwood. It's a much longer track, so it can haul a lot more. And then we have this little area over here for the logs. I actually did math, and these two cars here are the end of the log track. I can extend it a bit more if I wanted, but after these here, the log camp track is technically going to be filled all the way up. We'll see. I might extend it. Now we're just going to coast back here into the area. I'm going to go ahead and start applying brake. As well as that one to line us up nearly perfectly. I will take that. Now, here's the next major update that's happened in the game if you haven't played since before the spline update. This is a rather nice one. See, a lot of people know how you play the game. You click on these lovely cranes, and it starts to load the cars. You have to wait for them to finish their animation to go all the way front and back Supposedly there are glitches about that. But, back in the day, you used to have to click multiple times to load the entire train. Now, they auto-load. As long as you click them the first time and the cars are lined up correctly, they'll continue loading until the train cars are full. Makes things a lot easier, you know? Makes it so that I can now just sit back, sit here, and watch them load. Okay, enough of that. Let's get to the next thing. While we're waiting for it to finish loading, I figured I'd come over here and show you the telegraph office. This is it here. It's kind of weird having a telegraph line that just ends, especially because, well, when you first place these down, those lines have physics, which is kind of weird, but you know, it's kind of nice. Especially if you could end up actually having to, like, connect these up in a neat way, so that you can't teleport from them until all the lines are connected. I think that'd be really cool. And also would make it kind of nice because then when wind and everything gets added, you know, the telegraph lines will sway very slightly in the wind. As you can hear, there is a telegraph running in there, doing Morse code. The door opens up as soon as you get close to it, as does this. And there you are. There's a fire always burning, so you never have to worry about being cold. Door opens on your way out, and, well, that's it. That's the lovely little telegraph booth. That is also now your teleport hub. So you can just jump between them whenever you need. Now let's go back and check on the train. Alright, I went ahead and got us moving out of here. The cars are fully loaded. Trains did their job. Now we're just going to go drop these off with the rest of the train that's going to now be heading back the other way. What do you mean the rest of the train? Well, I already went ahead and built a larger train with one of the new locomotives that's been added since you've been gone to kind of help us get back down to where we started. Or, well, at least the sawmill. Meet Foggy. This is our Montezuma class locomotive that we have here in Railroads Online. I believe it was initially introduced before the Splice update went fully live, but I don't remember if I've ever fully actually had one to drive around or to do anything with. So sadly, my knowledge of that is a bit gone since that was about a year ago. But the good news is we bought one and we've been using it to kind of do the early loads and missions. My friend, being a bit of a funny guy, decided instead of numbering it to make it a plus symbol. So Foggy, the unnumbered plus symbol locomotive. Which is kind of funny because then I made the next engine number 2. So literally this locomotive is just an unnumbered locomotive for our railroad. Considering it's the Foghorn Railroad and it's named Foggy after Foghorn Leghorn, it feels kind of fitting that it's unnumbered. It is the locomotive that the railroad's named after. So I'm going to go ahead and get this hooked up to the caboose, move it forward a bit, and then we'll ride it down to the sawmill, where I'll then talk about a few other things that have changed since we've been gone. Alright. So, I don't have the engine going at full reg since I'm going to be sitting here in the caboose, but that'll give us time to talk as we start heading downhill about some of the other changes that have happened since we last talked. Essentially, a company called Astrogen Entertainment reached out and said, hey, we'll become your publisher, and we'll try and help get you people for your game. We'd love to see it succeed. And since then, the game's been kind of getting more updates more frequently, kind of having a much more interesting presence. I can't say if it's for the better or for worse yet. It's still kind of new in my opinion. And a lot of what I've seen has kind of ended up being the developer QMA being told essentially, yeah, no, your original teams were pretty much on the ball. So, with that said, our train is actually reaching the sawmill right now. This is what you normally do early game, is you bring lumber down to the sawmill to drop it in the pond to be turned into other products. And you get a glimpse of what's coming up next. Let's get these dropped off and we'll see about that next part of the project. So normally what you do is, this lake is where you put the logs. I have about 39 out of the 100. That also really needs to be worked on. What you do is you simply come back, see that yellow arrow, and press enter now to tell it to unload the logs. It'll automatically unload until the car is empty. I'm sure I'm going to unload a few of these. We're not going to unload all of them. And as you can see, that fills up your lake. Normally it would then get turned into product, but I think right now my product is full up. But what that does mean is that I gained a little bit more money. I think log cars are usually the least profitable. They are your lowest rung on the ladder, but it's what you get for the starting out. After that, you get the next good, which we're going to jump into now. Next up on the food chain is the product made here, which is going to be lumber and beams. See? Lumber and beams is used at various locations around the map to kind of continue the production chain. I believe beams are specifically used in the iron mine for the mine shafts, and lumber is as well, but I think beams are used more. So you can take a small truck of lumber up and like 2 of the beams up, and that's going to be the thing you really need to be able to get iron. I don't have a line to the iron mill, so the way that I make this work for me is I take them over to the freight depot. The freight depot will accept all the different goods that you can get. It'll accept logs, it'll accept lumber, it'll accept raw iron and coal. It accepts all of it. It will give you money for all of that. But it's very far away and kind of a separate location. So you're kind of taking it all the way over there when you could just take it to an industry that needs it. So it's really up to you if you are kind of in the mood to just go to the freight depot, unload it, and then go back, or if you're wanting to kind of take it over to the actual industry that needs it. Sometimes you don't have all the industries tied in together, so you have a place to take it yet. So the freight depot is usually a good place for that, and you can take it with a bunch of other goods as well. For example, I don't have a line yet to the iron ore mine or the coal mine. But I have track that leads over to the smelter, so I can take cordwood over there. But beams and lumber aren't really needed for that. Now, here's the major difference between beams and lumber. Beams can only be fit 3 to a car, where lumber can actually be fit 6 to a car. So you can fit way more lumber on a car than you can beams. And just to make sure that I kind of go over all the basics of what's in the game, you also need to make sure that you build buildings called utilities. Those are going to be your water towers to restore the water in your locomotives, and firewood depots where you can drop off any wood product to be made into firewood, which you can use to restock your wooden burning locomotive tenders. And with that, we have our entire train here filled up. But you may have noticed this locomotive is a bit different than the other one. Well, that's because this is the Glenbrook. This is my Eggie. This is also one of the more powerful, but also speed demons. So be careful with this one, because you can take it too fast. So, Eggie here is going to be our locomotive of choice as we head back to the freight depot. I'm just going to get back onto the main line, and then we'll start heading back and finish up that little circle there. Now we're going to try and get the Glenbrook back to the freight depot without derailing it, but I'm also going to try and go as fast as I can do it. This seems like a regrettable decision, but, you know. Let's go. I have the reg at 100 and the regulator at 54. So our throttle's not fully out, but you know, I don't know if we're going to need it. As you can see, compared to some of the other locomotives in Railroads Online, the Glenbrook is actually quite large and has a lot of interesting different color variations, as well as different smokestacks and light fixtures. You can see all of them when you go to purchase them. But for speed, this is one of the faster ones. Even now, we're going at a clip faster than I normally ever go. I'm not sure if we're going to derail, but I'm going to keep an eye on the train cars behind us just in case. Now, be mindful, this locomotive is only going about half of its speed right now. I'm not even letting it go full speed, and that was on a small little uphill portion right there. So, it's got enough power to pull a lot of cars really fast. So, if you do get to Glenbrook, be careful, because you never know when your train is just going to go flying. And there we are. Eggie's finally coming into the freight depot. We're just going to unload these cars, and then that'll be kind of the basics of, well, number production. And after that, we can maybe jump to the smelter, and I can show off how that ends up working out for what will end up being the next part of our series, which is actually going to be building the line to the smelter to start delivering iron ore. And seeing as we're at the end of the line, I guess I can mention a few other things. A, the end of track devices now. They added some buffers in one of the recent updates. I think it was one of the ones where we got the larger turntable. Buffers got added. But let's not focus on that too much. Let's focus instead on the smelter and what you're supposed to do here. The smelter is going to be powered by cordwood. Cordwood cars are going to be filled up all the way at the log mill. I keep calling it a log mill. It's a logging camp, a sawmill. I guess log mill technically works because you're getting a lot of logs, but it doesn't make sense. Anyway, these cars are much like the lumber and fill up 6 to a car. And if you look at my numbers now, I'm at 942. They're not the best paying, but they're about 10 each, which with one car, that's about 60. So a train full of cordwood is going to be quite worth it. Now, the only issue with the smelter is cordwood goes fast. So having giant trains of cordwood parked at the smelter isn't a bad idea. Only issue is, well, you don't have a lot of space. That's all you get for the platform for the cordwood. Whereas for the iron ore, you get this entire area here, this lovely little platform. So you get a much bigger area when delivering iron ore. But as you get iron ore here, it starts building up a mountain, which means any track trying to come down this way gets swallowed by the iron ore. But that's our next goal. We've already got the cordwood down here. We've already started unloading it. I've also got track down here, which took a lot of work, especially when you're trying to not go over 3%. It's a lot harder to get down here than you think. But I went ahead and built a yard. I've got all these little like industry area here ready for like shunting and stuff to kind of get the railroad working in a certain way. And of course, like I said, my friend got us a telegraph area down here long in advance for this project. I was going to show off the what the smelter makes, which is going to be kind of the next level up. We'll focus on this again when we get to that episode. But after you start bringing iron ore down, you can get raw iron and rails. These are things you're going to use to get coal, as well as tools from the ironworks. But we're not going to worry about that too much now. That's in the future, far and away a few episodes. For now, I just want to say thank you all for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this kind of catch-up since the last Spline update video I did. Kind of trying to go over everything, as well as kind of giving a brief, hey, this is Railroad Online. This is the kind of the beginning of the supply chain. And, you know, kind of showing off how it's going to work and what we're going to be doing next. Which is actually going to be essentially finishing that iron line and maybe trying to get some trains up there so we can start getting some iron to bring it back down. For now, thank you all for watching. I'm Silver. This has been Railroads Online, and I can't wait to see you all next time.